Hey, oh, I don't know why that's still on there. Let me get rid of that. That's from last week. Hey, and welcome to another episode of Madness and Mayhem. 2 seconds. How do I mute? Oh, I'm so sorry. My hay fever has been insane today. So I literally, it's like I almost cancelled. And I know people are like, oh, hay fever is just, you just got a bit of a cold. It's not like that, right? Is you feel sick, you have a headache, you can't see. Like this morning, I literally couldn't see out of my eyes because they were that swollen. So, and I've like taken like way too many hay fever tablets. And it's worse at the moment because I think they're spraying shit, right? So I actually got rid of my hay fever. Like I didn't have it at all for like two and a bit years. It come back with a vengeance this year. Give me 2 seconds. I'll just blow my nose. So hey Edwin, welcome aboard. So we're just going to be talking about, I fucking hate talking about politicians. It's like so boring. I'm over all this shit. But we're going to talk about the China connection, seeing he's just made a play, right? If you haven't seen Burnham's, let me just make sure my phone's on silent. If you haven't seen Burnham's latest real thing, a video of what he's going to do, right? Now that he's an MP, now he's telling people what he wants to do. So decentralize, move stuff to Manchester, and reindustrialize, which sounds great, right? Until you realize that what he means by reindustrialize is give all the money to China, Qatari money's in there somewhere, and outsource and launder money outside of the UK, as he has been doing in Manchester. But I wasn't going to talk about Burnham this week. I was just watching a show, and I'm not even going to mention the name of this person anymore because of the way that they've been behaving. I think it's disgusting. Who just randomly threw out, oh, well, you know, Burnham's a Chinese asset. Maybe you should ask for a general election. I'm thinking, if you knew this, then maybe you should have said 12 months ago when we had an opportunity to do something about it. Because it's not like people in our country haven't been trying to do something about Andrew Burnham for years over the rape gangs, right? And the fact that he covered it up over and over and over again, or the fact that he covered up for oh my days, I can't remember her name, the poor lady who ended up in police custody and was raped in police custody in Manchester. So it's not like there haven't been scandals around Burnham that people haven't been trying to pull him down for. Obviously, him being linked to China is a huge thing. So maybe rather than saying it after he's MP and now in play to be the Prime Minister, is probably not the best time to do it. Then suggesting that people in the UK need to pull their finger out and demand a general election, considering what the petition that's up now is the 4th petition we have done since Starmer came to office. So in 2 years there have been 4 petitions for people to call a general election, and every single time it's been debated in the petitions committee, and every single time Labour have said we are going to just do the manifesto, do the mandate. We were given the mandate to do whatever. It's not legally binding, it's not lawfully binding. The only thing we can do is that, right? That's it. Like, we literally don't have the power. So to be
for somebody to suggest that people in the UK aren't working hard and aren't trying and aren't just fucking, like, currently struggling to buy food, to pay for electricity, to not be fucking arrested for tweeting something is pretty fucking difficult, and we are doing what we can. Also, I would just like to remind everybody, because I think it's important we do the probably weekly reminder of what happened in COVID. So I'm not in a good mood because I feel like shit. As I was getting ready, because I went in the bath for like an hour. I was just like, I'm over all of this. I need to go in a bath and just relax. But I was kind of like scrolling. I was dealing with stuff for tonight. So as I was just about to get out, a reel popped up on because I've been watching Blair White. I like her. She's been interviewed by she by Winston Marshall, who I'm not too sure of, but he does have some good guests. So just as I was about to watch Winston Marshall interview Blair White, and I know I'm going a bit sideways, but just bear with me. A little short popped up, and it's a British guy who is half naked doing a reel, who's been in America, and he's come back and he's saying, I hate this country. Like, the only thing we have going is football and pubs, and I don't want to talk about football and pubs anymore. I want to go hiking. I want to see sights. I want to. And I'm like, you do realize there's like thousands of years worth of history here. We have like so much to fucking see in the UK. Like, we have, like, you go, how many mountains do we have? Right? We've got hills, we've got forests, we've got, like, you know, when you just like, you literally degraded the country to football and pubs. That says more about you than our country. And yes, America might be really nice right now, but it wasn't a few years ago, right? When they had Biden in office. And what happened in COVID? When they all had to get vaccinated, when they had to wear masks in order to get on public transport, to go to the shops. What happened? All of the military had to get fucking vaccinated, the doctors, the nurses. And if they didn't do those things, they lost their jobs. Did that happen in the UK? No. Why didn't it happen in the UK? Because the people did the shit. So for people to keep saying people in the UK need to pull their fucking finger out, like, everybody's got short memories. And the person who's saying this wore a fucking mask, didn't even have the balls to say no to wearing a mask, right? So I never wore a mask. I had an operation. I was in and out of hospital. I had an operation, and I never wore a mask. I went toe to toe with a policeman in Aldi. So fucking I stood as a candidate, and I'm not the only one who did these things, right? Lots of people in the United Kingdom did these things, right? When we were being abused by the state. And people are still fucking standing up, even though we're being abused by the state. So for somebody who is supposedly an ex-intelligent asset, who has these bits of information, it would have been really handy to tell the people before Burnham was now being catapulted in to be the next prime minister, that we now have a Chinese asset. I mean, Starmer was pretty fucking owned by China, but I'm just fed up with people denigrating other countries. Right? If you don't like the UK, don't live here. Right? If you want to live in America, go live in America. But America's great under Trump. Like, good luck with what happens next. Personally, I'm going to fight for the country that I have got thousands of my years my family's lived here, right? I'm not just going to fucking escape and then fucking where are you gonna go when America's no good? Like, where are you gonna go? The people who are just escaping are fucking cowards. Like, shut up, like, or you don't deserve to be happy somewhere, right? If you can't even fucking stand up for your countrymen and women, like, at all. And it just really pissed me off. I'm really not in a good mood anymore. I was all right. I was all right earlier. Like, I mean, I felt like shit, but whatever happened to where we go one, we go all, right? 1 minute we're fighting for the entire world, the next minute we only give a shit about ourselves. And I'm not saying we should be globalists. We absolutely should be focused on supporting our own country. But if I had intelligence, I wouldn't just sit on it. I wouldn't keep it to myself. Right? And how many people in the United Kingdom got into the same position as me that we had a pretty successful business, put everything on hold to talk about the shit that was going on in America, to have their business removed from the internet, blocked from making any money, like in a really difficult financial position, to now 6 years later be told you're a country of bad teeth, right? Well, you try living in this country where you cannot get access to dental care, you cannot get NHS support, you're on a waiting list for fucking God knows how long. 2 years I had to wait for my operation. Do people die on NHS waiting lists? That's how great the NHS is. Except if you know, in Gaza. When you're a child in Gaza, then you get fucking airplaned in, right? Or if you're in the Ukraine, you get airplaned in. Or Afghanistan, you get airplaned in. So, but I'm not going to name names because I think that's underhanded, but I will just put it out there because I know that person watches my shows, because my shit turns up on their Telegram channel like within 24 hours. So they will know who I'm talking about. Okay, so on to China and fucking Burnham and Manchester. So it's worth looking into Manchester, because what I actually think is, so if you'll remember that I mentioned a bit ago when we were talking about the defense secretaries all resigning, how Starmer said specifically Russia will attack the UK by 2030. It wasn't it wasn't, you know, we've got potentials. It was like, it was a specific statement, Russia will, right? And we know that it'll be our own government that bombs us and blames Russia. But all of the kind of media hype around nukes was all like London's going to get bombed, and, you know, are you in the safe zone? All of those things. So as I've been looking into China, Burnham, and Manchester, what actually became very apparent is that it's not, but like Burnham's like Epstein. He's at the bottom of the ladder, right? He is a puppet. He's got no control over anything at all whatsoever. Neither did Starmer, right? Neither did Sunak, neither did Theresa May, neither did Boris Johnson, neither did David Cameron. Like, we've just had puppet after puppet after puppet after puppet. So it's the same global elite running the show, right? So, but also what actually became really obvious was it was set up not by Burnham. Like, he's been helicoptered in since 2017. It was set up by Osborne. And if you'll remember, I've told you about George Osborne before, and when I met him, and when they launched the Conservative Party campaign for the 2015 general election, they did it from Telford, and we took him to a factory. And you'll remember me saying that, like, this was before I knew about MK Ultra and all the kind of crazy shit, that he was powered down, right? And he was literally just stood there in like around like with the Conservative like people around him, and he was just like zoned out. If you've ever seen the video of, who is he? Bill Clinton. You know, when he's like getting his like makeup done, and like he's just like glazed over, and like they're putting the makeup on, and he's kind of like, not, I got no idea what's going on in the world. And then they kind of like whisper in his ear, and then all of a sudden he's like back in the room. That was the exact same thing with George Osborne. Like she like the bag handler who looked like she belonged on The Only Way Is Essex. Like it was an afternoon kind of like no, it wasn't. I can't remember. It was a weird time of the season. Let me just throw you back there. George Osborne in Telford 2014. Was it? Yeah, it must have been 2014. No. Okay, here we go. Oh my gosh, there's a video of it. Oh, am I in the video? Probably not. Maybe we can see his bag handler though. Right, let's see if we can see the bag handler. You can see Lucy Allen. It's really poor quality. So we went to LV Plastics. Like, where's my buttons? I need like a producer or something. I don't know. I can't do it right now. This one. Okay. I can't, when I make it big, it's really bad quality. So it's better quality tiny. So I don't know whether there's sound. I wonder whether, oh look, 91 views. Oh look, there we go. Oh, here we go. Let me just pause that there. So her telling the world I had nothing to do with her campaign, and I said to everybody, well, you need to go and check all the election material. There we go. Look, promoted and published by Katie Woodland on behalf of Lucy Allen. There we go. There we go. Proof is in the pudding. I was her campaign manager. Fucking retard. Anyway, so this boy here, Georgie Osborne. It was so pathetic. But I want to see if we can see a bag handler.
What would this be used for?
This is the front plate for a Triton shower.
Right, plastic or...
No, that's for carrying the water. There'll be cooling channels going up and down through the mould. So when the plastic's injected in, there'll be water. Even this, you're probably looking at £30,000, £40,000 worth of investment.
Yeah, at least.
But you can see him like walking like a normal human, right? Kind of robotic. Kind of reminds me of the Biden
in the Range Rover.
But he's really like
Brilliant.
He's just like a puppet. There I am. Look. Behind. There we are in the white coat. Behind Geo.
Well, here in Telford, we're firing a starting on a very important general election. And our message is very simple. Let's stay on the road to a stronger economy. Britain faces a clear choice between the economic competence and strong leadership of David Cameron and our long-term economic plan, and the economic chaos
is it
that the
that long hair
alternatives represent with higher borrowing and higher taxes. Britain can't afford to go back to that economic
Well, it was
chaos.
February,
We've got to work
right?
for our long-term
That's what I wanted
plan.
to
We've got
know.
to stay on the road to recovery.
So it was February. So the bag handler, she was wearing white calf boots, skinny jeans, like ripped skinny jeans, like a tweed jacket. Like, so she genuinely looked like she'd been tangoed the lot. And she just, so he's kind of like talking and animated there, right? But actually he was just like, if you've seen those videos of Joe Biden wandering around aimlessly, like that's what was going on until she kind of like turned him on. So what's the real interesting thing is actually he's the one who kind of set all this in motion with Burnham being king of the North, right? Burnham just picked up the mantle. How do I stop it? Oh. Oh, fuck's sake. There we go. So that's the thing that was, I went off on a tangent there. Just, I wanted to find the date. So he's the one who set everything up. But not just in Manchester. He set up the links to China. Huge things happened in 2015. In 2015, they really started ramping up connections to China. So that's when obviously we've got the Conservative Party have just had their huge mandate to and I apologise for getting 2 MPs elected part of that, being part of the swamp. I didn't know. So they put everything in place kind of just before Cameron went and signed the SDGs, right? So the year before we voted out of Brexit, they were kind of linking us up to China. But also in Manchester, they'd had kind of like mini little referendums to see if they wanted a mayor. And they like twice they'd said no. And so then George Osborne came along and he created the mayoralship. So they actually took it out of the hands. So basically the local councils had all like kind of said, no, we don't want a mayor. We like being like kind of responsible for our parishioners and our towns. And so they created the unitary authority and then kind of like imposed the mayor, right? This is important because this is something that they keep trying to do to Telford and pushing us into Birmingham, right? Making us part of Birmingham's unitary authority. And then also we kind of get like trying to push us into Shropshire. This is what they're trying to do all the way through. So to devolve, right? Devolution, breaking up the UK, giving power to if you look at how Khan has destroyed London, if you look at how Burnham has actually not improved Manchester in any way, shape, or form. We went through lots of stuff last week with the fact that they spent billions, absolute billions have been spent creating skyscrapers and supposed to have affordable housing, and they just haven't, right? Loads of investment, but none of it for the people. It's now like the skyline's completely different, but it's not Manchester. It's like a London carbon copy. So it's very evident that they have been in the background moving London to Manchester. Bearing in mind, Starmer says Russia will attack the UK by 2030. Everyone's saying that they'll nuke London. So they're already ready for it. Right. Now, Rishi Sunak did the same sort of thing. He pulled loads of stuff out of Westminster, but BBC have moved out of London. If you look at what all of the elites, they don't live in London, right? They moved to the Cotswolds. They moved to the Lake District. The people in London is like all the immigrants. Who do I keep telling you they hate worse than white people? Because they are, you want to talk about racist and bloodline? Like, we are nothing. Non-white people are worse than nothing to them, right? And that comes from people who escaped bloodline elite who I've worked with in therapy. Right? They said that every time a little black kid showed up, they knew that little black kid was the sacrifice. That was it. Like it was like no quibbling. Like that child, if they got taken to an event and there was black kids there, they were like, well, this is a sacrifice event. Like that's how they knew as young kids, right? And then obviously sometimes they'd be forced to be part of it, be involved, or be the one doing it, right? Or you do it or you die, sort of things. Oh, I apologize. Sorry. But yeah, so Giorgio, who is like a Pinocchio, absolute Pinocchio. And remember, so the MK Ultra, there is an actual politician persona. And this is why I keep saying to you, imagine waking up one day and realizing that there's this being entire persona who's done all of these horrible things that isn't you. It's got nothing to do with you at all whatsoever. And all of a sudden you're seeing all of this stuff. Because I don't believe all of them are, willing participants. I think many of them are just, they were cherry-picked, hand-picked. If you've never watched any of the interviews, Anika Lucas? Anika, let me just get her name properly, because I don't want to butcher her name. I think that's wrong. 2 secs. I follow her on Telegram. She's not English. She's from somewhere. There we go. And Anneke Lucas. So she was being groomed. So she was. Her mum was an alcoholic and an abuser. And then actually she ended up. She was kind of like the mum was on the outcast of the bloodline family, but then they needed. They just always need children, right? So they were grooming her to become and to be a specific singer, MK Ultra personality. So they do stay within the ranks because it's easier to control. But they're not willing participants. Now, she was too old when they started. They started when she was about 11, so she was a bit too old. Most of the bloodline people who are abused, they're abused from birth, right? And if you are having your mind shattered and you have no control over it, like I feel like we do need to make sure that we are bearing that in mind for many of these horrific things, like, because that could have been any of us, right? And people always say, oh well, I would never have done that. Well, how like if you'd have grown up in that same environment, you would have. That's the point. They're not unique for being abused and traumatized and trapped in the personality that's needed, right? The ones who are unique are the ones who break free. The most who break free because they get tossed aside, they're of no use. They end up like dead, right? The suicide programming kicks in. That's the whole point, is if you escape, your suicide programming kicks in, then you end up dead. Like, it's very, very, very few who are bloodline and or chosen from a very, very young age, before 3, who ever escape. So it would have been me, it would have been you, it would have been all of us. Just bear that in mind. Like, imagine waking up and realizing like all of this horrific stuff. Like, you just didn't know any of it. Now, obviously, somebody like George Osborne, Andy Burnham, like they're in the public eye, right? So they could just Google themselves and find stuff out. But people, you know, people who are assassins and have got no idea. It's just awful. So I think we do have to bear it in mind. But again, that it wasn't a life they chose. You know, none of us chose our lives. And even though we are being abused left, right, and centre by the state, the vast majority of people have not been relentlessly abused by friends and family their entire lives as well. So let's have some compassion, right? Okay, so now the China links start to get very, very dystopian. Because it's China. There's a few books that I came across that I only just come across it today. Like I've only been looking yesterday today, because like I said, it was just a random throwaway comment, like only a few days ago. So some of these books I would like to get and then maybe know more. So I did dive into She a while ago. So we've done China a few times, right? But I'd never really known about the specific people. I didn't know where to start. You know, when we've got so many bad actors, difficult to know where to start. So there's one book. Oh, I'm just trying to find the other book, just in case you want to have a read yourself, right? You deserve to know where I'm going. I did fall down a George Osborne rabbit hole because I was just like, fucking hell. Okay, this is the first one. Okay. Okay, so this is the first one. It's called Hidden Hand, Exposing How the Chinese Communist Party is Reshaping the World. And this was done in 2011. Was it? Hold on. Yeah, no, 2020? No. Was it All That Glistens is 2011 then? Okay, so the All is the other one that's 2011, I think. 2025. Maybe it wasn't Kindle before. Yeah. Okay. So, but basically, they blocked this book from being released. There was like loads of legal fights stopping this book from being released. And this book, and the second one, sorry, is called All That Glistens. Let me just share this tab instead. That works. And so again, this is talking about the golden era of relations. So this is talking about George Osborne's links, David Cameron's links, and I think the other one is talking about the more recent stuff, with the whole Build Back Better stuff. So both of them, and it'd be interesting to see the difference, because obviously as China's got more like teeth into the UK, then like less will be written. But there was loads of legal fights over one of these books that they wouldn't let it come out. And then obviously everybody's like terrified of what's going on in these books, and then everybody only talks about Russia, right? So China's not an issue, it's just Russia. Remembering China's like hacking us daily. They hacked the electoral roll. They now have the super embassy. We had over 20 Labour MPs embroiled in China scandals. We had China spies in Buckingham Palace. We had China spies. We've got an MP who has had to step down because of China. China. But obviously they're not the bad guys, and Russia's the bad guys. So Last week, the Sunday Times did an investigation drawing on research from the Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China. It's called IPAC. And bearing in mind, they've just done and I was waiting for this to go to the petitions committee. And so they've just had the petition, about Israel. So now we can do one on China. Right. So because you couldn't do one on China before because it wouldn't let you do one on specific people or states or stuff like that. Right. So I've tried with the Muslim Brotherhood before and it's been shut down. So now that there's an Israel one that has been and has even been to the parliamentary committee. So as long as the wording's exactly the same, there's no reason why we can't do the China one. Again, so we'll just resubmit, right? So now we can do the China one. So especially with all this brand new information coming out. An MI5 warning against China, like all the fucking time. And like retired military generals warning about China. So the Times identified at least 75 organizations operating Britain with links to the Chinese state, and anything linked to the Chinese state is CCP, right? Any business that operates in China has to be part of the CCP, right? Which is the huge fucking issue about our government servers being on Amazon Web Servers, because Amazon Web Servers operate in China, which therefore means China has a backdoor to all of our government stuff, which is why it's so fucking easy for them to hack into everything. They literally have the passkey. And obviously we want digital IDs, and they keep doing it, and they're doing it anyway, right? So with the ban on social media, even though young kids are fucking drawing mustaches on their faces and getting bypassing, I'll just stop using social media. Well, I won't use my phone. Like, we'll just go back to chilling out in those pubs all these people fucking hate, right? A resurgence of in-person conversations. Now, they're often described as workstations or liaison stations in Chinese documents, and the groups rarely occupy a physical office. Instead, they provide talent recruitment, liaison, or mediation services through individual associations. They fall within the remit of the United Front Work Department, the UFWD, which is a powerful arm of the Chinese Communist Party responsible for managing relationships with groups and individuals that the state does not directly control but considers strategically important. There you go. I'm just going to go through like the main bits, because this all of my notes is like 50 pages. So it was for the UFDW that the suspected Chinese spies Christine Lee, who infiltrated Parliament, and Yang Tengbo, who is linked to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is now banned from the UK, were reported to have worked, right? So this organisation, the UFWD, which is the United Front Work Department, is well known as a spy hub, if you like. So one of the most identified as influential is Chinatown's most prominent features Chu Ting-tang, who's a prominent figure involved in civic organizations, universities, and professional bodies who appear to be advancing Beijing's message in Britain. He's the chair of the Chinatown Chinese Association, and was given an OBE for services to the community. So we know that knighthoods and OBEs and stuff like that are very heavily linked with cabal stuff. Now, that doesn't mean they all are, because I know a couple of people who have been honoured. They are not cabal. They're just not. They have done a lot of fucking work in their community. They aren't. So they do still have, just don't, it's not everybody. It's always not, and it's not an instant sign of corruption. However, when we have like backstories like this, it's obviously linked to corruption. We also have Jasmine Zhang, who attended Cambridge University, and who else was at Cambridge University, the head of MI. She's 6 now, isn't she? The Ukrainian Nazi. She was MI5 and now she's MI6. She went to Cambridge. obviously Cambridge and Oxford, well known for MI5, MI6 recruitment, and we have got Chinese spies going there as well. So we got double agents in our security services. I would hazard a guess, of course, we fucking have, because China's got lots of money right now. What does the UK not have? Money. So Chinese media, she's described as the head of the UK liaison office for overseas talent recruitment, right? So talent recruitment. So she is a asset handler. So she's a spy recruiter. That's what she is, allegedly. Because I can't afford to be sued by the CCP. The implication is however, what's really dodgy, like she set up this Cambridge University Institute for Industrial Sustainability and Development, but it doesn't exist in the UK. So that's like a shell Cambridge-based institution, and Cambridge said that they would not. They chose not to respond to the Times when they asked them about it. So she was photographed with David Cameron. This is what I'm saying. It goes back way back before Starmer and Burnham. We also have to remember that what we also had going on in David Cameron is we had do you remember the Lord who stood up in 2016 and again in 2018 talking about all the money that was being laundered through Barclays Bank, but the parliamentary Barclays Bank accounts. And then the next day Obama was randomly in the UK, and the Lord got pulled into David Cameron's office, and Obama was there and he was told to shut up. So we have Obama, it's that era. So, and obviously David Cameron was just kind of following on from Tony Blair. So we've got that person works for she also was a columnist for the BBC, and we know that they are corrupt as fuck. We also then have another person, Ping Huang, who's a data science institute at Imperial College London. Imperial College London was responsible doing for the modelling in COVID. I couldn't remember his name. Oh, Ferguson, right? Linked to Ferguson's COVID modelling. They also had a huge Huawei contract. They also had loads of money coming from China. And so that was she set up the organization. Say she's president of Zhejiang UK Association. I helped set up the organization in 2009, was elected president in 2015 and re-elected in 2023. So while working at Imperial College London, with Imperial College London getting lots of money from China during COVID, and also Huawei and also 5G, and also stuff with regards to AI, like China AI, she's working there, getting elected, and they're getting lots of money, right? So we looked into fucking them lot down there ages ago. So Huang's been described as non-governmental ambassador. She says she's got nothing to do with like dodgy stuff, but she was photographed with Shen Zhu, the deputy head of the UFWD. UFWD, the organization was linked with the previous two actual outed spies who were banned from the UK. Also linked is Waylin Bates, the wife of the Tory peer Lord Bates, right? And again, so inside the cabinet, members of ministers, royal family. She said that she hasn't got anything to do with the Zhejiang Association since of course they're gonna fucking say that. It's so funny. We also have a lawyer and a founder of the Hun Association, a part of the United Front. We have, so Manchester specifically, Lisa Yam, also known as Ren Zheyi, is a solicitor who played a leading role in the network of consular assistance volunteers and they were an example of elite capture where the UFWD targets socialist elites who exert influence. So not only are there alleged Chinese spies knocking around Westminster, the Royals, they're also knocking around Manchester. She was referred in Chinese media as an overseas delegate to the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, which is a patriotic United Front organization underneath the Communist Party. Right. So we have actual Chinese Communist Party links inside Manchester. That's the first legit link. So they rarely break criminal laws because the United Front work is designed to exploit the freedoms of open societies. And this shows that CCP seeks proximity to influence from within. So I was just like, okay, well, so you may or may not know that Manchester's been twinned with Wuhan since the 80s. We also have the third COVID death happened in Manchester. So I went back and looked. During COVID, Burnham was having meetings and conversations with the Chinese people in Manchester, and that's where he found out about Wuhan, right? And found out about the Chinese virus from the Chinese community in Manchester. Ding, 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 alarm bells, right? Just wait. This COVID narrative gets even worse. We'll come back to it. So what else is going on? And it's just because my notes are all a mess, because it just happens. But we will come back to COVID stuff because I'm going to go through all the main bits. So what's going on in China is obviously we know about the abuse of Uyghurs, which is really interesting because they're Muslims, and yet the Muslims in the UK have traditionally been voting for Labour, and Labour have been cozied up to China because just people have got no they've got no line, right? If I don't agree with torture, then I just don't agree with torture. It's not like, well, they're over there. Like, it doesn't matter that they're like murdering our brethren because like they give us money, right? It's just weird. Like, it's just like, where's your moral compass? So Uyghur citizens are sterilized, brainwashed, and forced to work in factories against their will. And this is who Burnham's and lots of people are cozying up to, right? Because we forget this. Well, we don't forget this. We just get told. And one of the things George Osborne said while he was in China was, one day you'll have to decide whether you care about human rights or you care about money and saving the economy. Well, actually, I care about both. And I think we can deal with both. I don't think you need to brutalize and organ harvest from people, or dominate the world and threaten people and rape and pillage in order to be successful. Because I think the vast majority of humans are really nice people and just want to get on with their lives. And they like to coexist with other people. And they don't want to be shat on. So I think we can care about both. It doesn't need to be an either or. So aside from the distinctive architecture of Kashgar is highly noted. It has thousands of checkpoints at which live security cameras feed into comprehensive surveillance system. At a click of a mouse, the police can pull up live video streams from any camera and identify the people in it. So this article was from like quite a few years ago, and obviously we now have live facial recognition. They are pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. We already have it in like most of we've got video cameras in all the supermarkets because they're all going scanner, and I've been using the Sainsbury's one for well over a decade. The shopping thing, and that's because I can't add up. So I know how much money I have, and I need the machine to kind of add it all up for me. And I don't like the idea. I don't like emptying the trolley only to put it back in the trolley. Like, it just, like, I'm all for efficiency. I really am. Without the obviously nefarious side of things. Like, I don't mind scan and pack. Like, I've been scanning and packing for a long time before the other supermarkets brought it in, because it was like, I hate food shopping. I hate it. So if I can just grab a thing, stick it in a bag, and then I can leave like as fast as possible, like, I'm all for that. Like, really am. But the New York Times reports that the system can retrieve somebody's likeness, their home address, educational records, family ties, and movement history, like the blink of an eye. And then obviously, if you think about all the people who've just been like decitizened in China, like their homeless population is going through the roof. But you know, they won't last long, so then you know they just die. Like, and they're surplus to requirement. Nobody gives a shit about them. The architect of this technology is China Electronics Technology Corporation, and they are a defense manufacturer that's helping the country roll out military cyber system to police civilian populations. CETC is a state-owned company with over 170,000 employees and close links to CCP. Right. Now, they also deal with artificial intelligence and big data. So I would suggest that this organization is perhaps the one which is interlinked with the alleged hacking, right? Because that's the company that's kind of dealing with it. Now, they also, in 2018, the University of Manchester joined forces in radio astronomy with CETC. So, University of Manchester got in bed with an organization which is linked to the CCP openly. Tom Tugendhat stood up and was just like, the fuck? And then, like, the relationship fell down. Tom Tugendhat, let's not forget, he was named in the list of individuals, part of Peter Thiel's weird inner kind of circle. So that's a bit dodgy. So, I mean, he is conservative. but so it did get shut down because of it. We had She in Manchester 2015. So again, so 2015, this is pre-Burnham, pre-Starmer. This is when David Cameron was given the mandate to run the country. And the mandate that the people gave him, immigrants out, save our borders, stop austerity, fucking stop ripping us off, stop bailing out the banks. It wasn't go and get in bed with China. Go and get in bed with the UN, like even more than we already have, right? It was anti-globalist in 2015. And then we went full globalist. Now, what they also toured was the university's National Graphene Institute. Now, they say that they were doing this with regards to aeroplanes, making them lighter. But who remembers COVID? What was COVID? The actual virus. And I'm not getting into the argument about viruses don't exist, right? That's just such an irrelevant psyop-based conversation. Let's talk about actual facts. COVID, just because if you don't want to call it a virus, that's fine. But let's actually talk about the thing that they were injecting people with I believe, in the flu vaccines. And people were inhaling in what they call vapes and shit like that, because it was August, wasn't it? It wasn't actually December when it all kind of kicked off. It was August at the Wuhan Games, so they were spraying shit. So we had coronavirus plus HIV with a graphene theme. So this is 2015. So what else is going on in 2015? Well, 2015 is the same time and year that the NIH under Dr. Fauci gave Wuhan, which is twinned with Manchester, the money to go and create the COVID bat virus stuff, right? So what we have now is actually a very clear link between Manchester being involved in the COVID creating COVID because they are linked with fucking the CCP. They are doing graphene and they are having a huge contract to create graphene. And China's saying, oh, it's for aeroplanes. I don't think it was for fucking aeroplanes. I think it was for other stuff. Because remember, when you get in bed with China and you get in bed with the CCP, it's not just for the thing that they're telling you about, right? So at the time, they were exploring all of these crazy things that graphene could do. So that's where they went and had a look. No, it's not to say that they couldn't have got graphene somewhere else, but why would they need it on an industrial scale? I'm bearing in mind in 2012, they tried to release a previous SARS-like virus, but unfortunately it was all shut down because of the Craig Ventnor and partner machine where they printed the vaccines. It was only 35 people who ended up getting affected, and then it was all contained in China, right? And so then we had to have like the second version. Like, so all the stuff we did to stop previous pandemics all got forgotten in 2020. It just doesn't exist anymore. We're starting from scratch. So so Midas is what is not called Midas anymore. It's called it's like Invest Manchester, I think. So back then it was called Midas, which was a play on everything you touch turns to gold, and it was all about investing in Manchester. They called the so they have an India and a China forum. So we're gonna get we get loads of Indians. Like, and now we get loads of like, this is like not how is any of this propping up like the British people, right? The miners that didn't have the jobs, that were struggling, like, or the point was that you were supposed to rebuild the nation or rebuild Manchester for the people who already live there, not sell it off and then bring new people in. So it was established by George Osborne. So I'm saying, like, obviously he's the puppet, right? Like, first-hand knowledge, actual legit puppet. Orchestrated high-profile diplomatic visits to the city, so it sends a clear message to Chinese investors. Manchester is game. So the forum says it works to ensure Manchester is equipped and ready for China's rapid growth and the opportunity that it presents. So Reece Wally, he is another name. He worked in China for almost a decade, first at the property firm Jones Lang LaSalle in Beijing, then for European Union Chamber of Commerce. He speaks Mandarin fluently. He is a central figure in Greater Manchester's China engagement strategy, the executive director and later chair of the Manchester China Forum, the NCF. He is a key go-between between investment and shifting UK-China relations. He worked in China for 9 years. He's the oversaw growth in Chinese FDI direct flights, Beijing and Hong Kong. Xi Jinping's 2015 Manchester visit facilitation, tech and educational links. So this guy here, like, was integral in the Xi Jinping visit. So this guy's not low level, run of the mill, like, he's high up there, because you don't get to organize and be involved in those things unless you're vetted by the CCP, allegedly. He's a frequent speaker on Chinese media, promoting Manchester-China ties, views long-term strategic partnership and net zero innovation, bearing in mind from China, net zero. And I've read quite a few things about China promoting net zero. Of course they fucking are. They're promoting it in the UK, even though they supposedly signed a deal that says that they will reduce their carbon by 2038, and they've already increased solar power. And I have seen like a thing where they've got like a boat, like it's a ship that like using hydropower. But for them, it's we reduce our carbon and we have to buy all the shit from them. He was so Manchester Chinese Forum was credited with helping deliver that 6 billion Chinese development value airport. So all of that shit that we spoke about last week, which was supposedly to build Manchester for Manchester, ended up just like fucking laundering the money out. He is he's like an Epstein, and I don't know whether he's fiddling kids, but I mean like a fixer. Top council, Manchester City Council officials regularly attend dinners and meetings at the Denison House, which is China's consulate building. And we have the leader of the council is now being poised for mayor. She's a fucking China stooge too. I think I've got more stuff on her. I mean, I don't understand how nobody in Manchester was just like, why are my council members always going to dinner and meetings at the CCP's consulate building? During the height of the PPE shortage in the UK, the consulate coordinated distribution of mass and medicine to Chinese students. But also, it invited students to commemorate the intellectual contributions of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels in the form of film screenings and keynote speeches with, thank you, sweet, with like, so this is what the Manchester Council is promoting. They are promoting the Chinese consulate and promoting and going to dinners, and the Chinese consulate are advancing Marxist ideologies, openly advancing Marxist ideologies. So the big role of the consulate working with Wally is to increase business links. An investment guide published by the Manchester China Forum says there are 86 Chinese-owned companies operating across Manchester, including the Bank of China, the Beijing Construction Engineering Group, Chint, Huawei, state-owned Guigong Machinery and Electric Company. The forum describes Manchester as the investable city, and it's plenty of evidence in recent years to back that up. It's just fucking bought. And it's the Far East Consortium is the one that did the 1 billion Northern Gateway project, of which, remember, 20% was supposed to be for affordable housing, and less than 4% is. 10 years on, less than 4% is. They also invested the 800 million airport city, getting direct flights from Beijing to Manchester. And then in Wigan, council was recently accused of acting like communist China after it suspended a librarian who objected to the redevelopment. So the university has a partnership with the Beijing Institute of Aeronautical Materials, which was announced 2 years ago. I can't remember when this article was done. And oh yeah, so this is talking about dedicated to finding applications of graphene to planes, right? So they invested in created this joint working relationship about graphene, and then they were trying to find applications of graphene to planes. Like, surely you would there's like backwards thinking, like they just supposedly, yeah, to make engines lighter, considering they're not necessarily using the same types of planes that we use anymore, right? So they all use hydrogen. Who is this guy? They also developed low-cost graphene sensors that monitor air quality and pollution. And what happened in London? We have all those fucking air sensor zones, and then they don't let cars in, and it leads to, we've got all those clean air zones. So right here, we've got China funding the lockdown of the UK. Right, that's like helping create. I mean, we were Belt and Roaded, and people just didn't notice, and I didn't notice because I wasn't paying attention to any of this shit either, right? But where are the politicians? Like, this is their fucking job. Like, this is what we pay. Like, people in Manchester should have been paying attention to Manchester. I've been paying attention to Telford. He's corrupt as fuck, right? So in the 5 years before the pandemic, the number of Chinese people ends up like doubled, like almost doubled to like almost 50%, right? So now there's an ecosystem of accommodation block societies and activities. So now we have like China Stan, right, in Manchester. China Stir, maybe. China Stir. This was pretty big, huge. So the South China Morning Post reports that just the University of Manchester has the largest population of Chinese students in Europe, around 5,000 in total, many of them graduate students. There's thousands more at MMU, the universities of Salford and Bolton, and the music schools, and they contribute disproportionately to the university's coffers. So they pay, international students pay more, right? So China is heavily funding the universities. Like the universities, like they would collapse without international student money. So lots comes from China and lots comes from India. But just it's the largest population of Chinese students in Europe. That's pretty stark. So Greater Manchester prides itself on association with causes like supposedly women's suffrage, the birth of cooperative movement, trade unions, the fight on behalf of the working class people during the industrial era for free speech. Those themes are regular fixtures in the speeches of leaders like Andy Burnham and Sir Richard Leese, and we're reminded about them by statues and placards across the city. In fact, tomorrow the city will mark the 202nd anniversary of the Peterloo Massacre, and we went through the Peterloo Massacre before. Signing deals with state-owned enterprises that implicated in the horrifying human rights abuses in Xi Jinping would surrender that moral leadership in short order. 100%. So that was 2013. This is actually from their website, the Manchester China Forum. This is how I know they had direct flights. So they are linked into loads of different stuff, right? But low carbon, right? Greater Manchester is fast tracking to carbon neutrality by 2038, creating opportunities in clean energy, hydrogen and batteries and smart systems through China. These are the China projects: digital, cyber and AI. Deep tech talent, strong industry collaboration, Greater Manchester City region where digital ideas but this isn't like Greater Manchester's website. Like this isn't the council website. This is specifically the website which is talking about the joint working between China and Manchester, and there's another section which is China and Manchester and India. So Manchester as a council are working with China on cyber and AI. And I do not understand how the security services have not fucking shut them down. Like at all. Like what are they doing? Like actually what are they doing? Like that's literally their job. To be dealing with spies and espionage and corruption. So in 2024, the China-UK Clean Energy Forum was held in Manchester. Like, China, founded in 2022 in April. So while everybody else was fucking locked down from fucking COVID, Manchester was busy being besties with, like, their fucking Wuhan mates creating the fuck off. Creating this clean energy forum, bearing in mind China at the time was just building more and more and more fucking coal stations. This woman here is Bev Craig. She was the leader of Manchester City Council. She's the one that they are pushing to be the next mayor. So the potential for there's just no, we are not benefiting from China's fucking renewables, right? We've just had loads of the wind turbines full of asbestos. Like, we cannot recycle them. They break. Like, all of the fucking I mean, I was laughing when I was reading it, but it's just sad and disgusting. The solar panels blowing up and they're overheating and setting on fire in the fucking, and we haven't even been that fucking hot. Right? Like, if you think about the grand scheme of some countries' heat, and I know our heat is different, right? Because we have humidity and loads of other places don't have that. It's like it's different heat, right? And our houses and our homes and our schools are not set up for it because it happens like for 1 week of the year, unless we're being fucking geoengineered. And it might normally only happen for like a day or two. And it won't happen for the entire day, right? So what you see, like on the days where it's hot, 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 is you will see the aeroplanes over and over and over and over again. So it is contrary to British weather. And everybody talks about like the 1970s, the heat wave of 1976. Yeah. And if you go back to 1954, you'll find that the RAF flooded Norfolk and 34 people died when they were fucking around with geoengineering. Right? So they were just messing with the weather. That's not it's not natural weather. It's not natural to Britain. We may have a drought. If you cut down a tree, you can see like that, the rings will tell you whether it was a good year or a bad year. And we have had droughts and stuff like that. But they have been geoengineering the weather since the late 1800s. I don't think people understand this. They're not paying attention. They're not going back in time enough to look for things. People just read something and be like, oh, right, well, this must have happened in the last year or so. Like, nobody takes the time to keep going back and back and back. Like, and actually this whole fucking China thing started in the 1950s with a group called the 48, and the person in charge of the 48 is a great grandson of the person who set up the initial conversation. So that's when they had fucking Mao in charge, and they were doing the Great Leap Forward. So all the people who were kind of dealing with China didn't give a shit back then when Mao was fucking raping and pillaging and beating people to death. Remember? And they were covering it up. We went through what was going on in China, and they were covering it up and saying it wasn't happening. And it was people were escaping China and trying to tell people what was going on. So this goes back long before Andrew Burnham. Like, we're on the tail end of figuring this shit out. So she and obviously Keir in November at the G20 Leaders Summit, they had in Brazil, they had the fucking conversation on the side about clean energy being a key area of cooperation. And it's not China clean energy. Like, fucking oil is clean because it comes from the earth. Like, it's like burning wood is clean because the ash goes into the earth. Do you want to know what you do to if you want to add nutrients to your garden? You fucking put potash on it. That's what it is. That's what potash is. It's like fucking, you burnt the charcoal and you burnt the bricks and you burnt the wood. What's charcoal? Like fucking wood. Like, it's like that's renewable. Right? It grows, you use it, and then you replenish the earth and you grow more. Like, I don't understand how you can get more renewable than fucking wood. Like, at all. Like, you don't need to bury it in fucking like underground because it's toxic. It just it's so fucking retarded. And the eco warriors are so retarded to think that just stop oil, right? And you must have these fucking must have these solar panels. Which have got plastic on them. What's plastic made out of? It's like, it's not made out of wood. It's not made out of wood. Like, I genuinely, I'm just in a fed up mode today. But it's the ludicrousness of their capacity to just sheer inability to function. But suppose, so look, here we are. So China became the first, this is 2024. China became the first country to surpass an annual production of 10 million new energy vehicles, accounting for over 60% of the global production and sales, ranking first in the world for 9 consecutive years, right? And what's happened with the electric vehicle market? It collapsed. So what do the government keep doing? They keep subsidizing it. So who are they subsidizing? They're fucking giving money to China. Money laundering through the electronic vehicles, giving money to China, forcing petrol stations to close, creating those fucking electric charging points. And the money's like, because as soon as they took the grants away, the sales dropped. So they put the grants back. The same with the heat pumps. Who builds the heat pumps? China. Who destroyed our steel industry? China. Because we keep fucking giving them all the stuff. This was what was really scary. So this, I did this while I was in the bath, so I couldn't, I've got dark mode on in the bath, so that didn't look like that color. Let me change that so I can see it. How do I? Oh, it's because I've made it midget. There we go. So David Halston, who's the head of city policy for Manchester City Council, so another city councillor, told China Daily that Manchester can learn from China's experiences in deploying the clean energy industry nationwide, particularly in translating national targets into local actions. No, they can't. No, they can't. Because the reason why China is able to build a stadium in a day, the reason why China is able to, sell stuff so cheap is because they use slave labor. Because the only way we could ever compete with China with regards to industrialization is if we do the same thing that the Nazis did to the Jews, and you round fucking people up and you refuse to pay them and you put them in concentration camps, because that's what China does. That's literally what China's doing. And it's not hidden. It's not a secret. This is actually happening in China. People go missing. People try and talk out and they just get disappeared. You get locked out of being able to buy food, right? You don't even need to be round up anymore. Right? They know exactly where you are, what you're doing. So if you haven't watched 1984, like China surpassed that in their fucking capacity to terrorize people. Like, it's not even hands-on. And they have drones and they have, 170,000 people working in that one organization looking at the CCTV. So the real scary thing was that this Manchester City Council person said, the scale of the deployment is really important for us to learn from, but it's not the end goal of when we become net zero. It's how quickly we can get there. So net zero at all costs is what's been going on in Manchester. So why is this important? It's because fucking Burnham has been the head of Manchester, right? As the mayor, he has groomed the puppet, right? So this is what he's saying is, reindustrialization and, decentralization. So power back to the people. What he's really saying is welcome to, you think you got it bad now? just you fucking wait until we do the Manchester model, because everyone's called him King of the North, Manchester model, Manchester model. This is what it is. Like, Manchester will tell us what is happening. So then we've got random people, and I know it's going to be disjointed. I apologize. So Powell is somebody who has been pulled into the cabinet. He is the first political appointee ever to hold the National Security Advisor role. First political appointee. So he has been appointed, right? Parliament's Joint Committee on National Security Strategy was blocked from questioning him, unlike any previous holder of the post. So this is like Mandelson 2.0. He conducted 2 secret visits to Beijing in 6 months. He was responsible for the Chagos deal, and we all know that was just for China, right? And that was obviously Starmer was pushing that. Powell, who's been pulled into, he's Burnham's advisor, will be Burnham's advisor. It would have handed Beijing strategic proximity to Diego Garcia. And costing us loads of fucking money. And they were pushing for Chagos. So that guy is still embroiled. Powell is the former chief of staff to Tony Blair. He was integral with regards to the Good Friday Agreement, the Iraq War decisions, Libya's intervention. He oversaw China policy and scrutiny over collapsed spy cases, right? So he was involved in that. He's got indirectly linked via New Labour circles with Epstein and Mandelson. He's criticised in security circles for downplaying China threats, right? So the security circles are saying this guy's fucking dangerous. And so then they blocked his fucking scrutiny into who he is, right? Because they won't let him. If they vet him, he won't be allowed to do his job. So who is in charge? It's not Burnham, but we know it's not Burnham. Because he tried to be the leader of the Labour Party twice before, and they were like, no. He ended up not being an MP, and he was put in a role by George Osborne. Right? Who is a Conservative? And if you read, like I was reading the stuff, and George was saying, one of the best things I ever did, like he was talking on a podcast, one of the best things I ever did was create the mayoralship and giving Andy Burnham that opportunity. And it couldn't have happened without cross-party working, right? Why did they have to put Burnham in? Because he was failing, right? He's a vulnerable individual who was shit at life. He had nothing going for him. The Labour Party rejected him multiple times, even though he was like a Blair sycophant. He's not good enough, right? And the fact that nobody who was already part of the Labour Party was good enough to be the new Prime Minister should tell you everything we need to know about the cabinet. Nobody out of their fucking landslide victory was good enough to be PM. He had to step down from being a mayor to then win his safe seat, because it was him and Ange, and obviously the public don't like Ange. Doesn't matter that the unions wanted it, the public don't like her. And they would lose. I mean, she did the things that she needed already. But remember, she was chatting to Burnham last year. Chatting away. Then we also have James Purnell. He is the Chief of Staff, a man who left Parliament in 2010, spent years in senior positions at the BBC, corrupt, so Jimmy Savile, so Hugh Edwards, so XYZ, ABC, all of the fucking paedophiles from the BBC, and worked at Flint, one of London's most influential corporate lobbying and political strategy firms, before joining Burnham's inner circle. Now, why do I think he's important? Because of censorship. right? They are going to have trusted media, and everybody else is not trusted media, right? So who do you want? You want somebody who was in the BBC, because BBC is state-sanctioned media. He was a former cabinet exec under Brown and Bear, linked to Mandelson. Right, I just don't understand how. Like, what on earth was Manchester fucking doing? Like, they must not be on social media. But actually, remember, because Reform got 35% of the vote, they only got 50-odd% of the vote. And they got lots of postal votes. Remember, that's what we went through last time. So he's a PPE researcher for Tony Blair, rose through the ranks, culture secretary, work and pension secretary, welfare reform. He... Oh, I think I've cut that off somewhere. So that's because he's talking about the other stuff. Okay, so the Chinese spy was Osborne's like all over fucking spies, right? Because look at him. He probably couldn't his mum probably still fucking does his hair for him. And that's just probably because she's fucking... Oh, I was going to say something really awful, but I'm not going to. But so we've got like known links to Chinese spies. This is at the 48 Group Club. He's also involved in the 48 Group Club. So at the club's Chinese New Dinner in 2017, Mr. Osborne was introduced as the Godfather before he gave an address which lauded Huawei and mentioned their work on Britain's 5G infrastructure. Remember, Trump blocked Huawei being part of 5G. So we are very lucky that Trump stopped that. But it was 2017 when Burnham was given the keys to Manchester. At which time Osborne was already being called the Godfather. These two fucking dickheads, Lord Prescott and Lord Heseltine, were also involved at China. We also have Tony Blair, John Brond, Vince Cable, Bernie Ecclestone, Richard Graham, Lord Douglas, Peter Sands, Angela Rippon, Ken Livingstone, Alex Salmond, and Neil McGregor. All these involved. Now, some of them are like, oh, it's nothing to do with me. I've never had anything to do with it. But this was like taken from their website before their website was taken down. And I was like, oh, yeah, it was nothing to do with me. But, I went through that. So the third person who died was in Manchester. We also have Bloomberg. It's not just China. So Bloomberg Philanthropies launched December 25. It's a 3-year program to train UK metro mayors developed within the London School of Economics. Andy Burnham himself said he'd been a partner to Bloomberg Philanthropy since his first year as mayor, and to the region. So he's just, he sold himself to everybody. He's like a fucking whore. Bloomberg has trained 387 mayors worldwide, including 9 of England's 11 mayoral strategic authorities. And Burnham wants to create mayoralships for all of them. So you're no longer going to have elected Westminster MPs because, being in control of stuff. They're not in control anyway, like the civil servants are. So what we're going to is now... So you think we've got and Burnham's involved, like WEF young leader. So now we have like WEF young leaders and spies in Parliament. Now we have the people with the involvement and the money directly involved in what's going in your town. right? With no accountability and no authority. Like you cannot hold them to account. Look at what goes on in the London Assembly when they are trying to have conversations with fucking Sadiq Khan and ask him about the thousands of girls who are raped, considering now they're reopening 4,000 cases, of which Khan says didn't exist. We have this guy, David Stern, involved in Mountbatten Windsor, to China. Remember, he's already been investigated, because he was giving Epstein backdoor trade envoy information when he was the taxpayer-funded trade envoy. So they were visiting China in 2011. They were organized by David Stern. He pitched to Epstein the idea of opening an investment office in London, which would have no obvious links to China on the outside, but extremely China focused on the inside. So all very cloak and dagger. Okay. That's lots of stuff that we went through last week. Cabinet roles. So April 2026, this is Burnham, also met Chinese Consul General Tang Rui in Manchester. Re-emphasized Greater Manchester's priority on China relations. That's all the stuff we went through last week. I've got more stuff on the actual people around Burnham. Where are we? So there was I watched Esther McVeigh was on Daily Espresso, which is done by the Daily Express. And I watched, that was, I think 40 minutes. That's worth watching. So she was kind of dropping names of people. I was like, well, who are these people? But so she dropped the name of this person called Mayata Fambaula, who is an MP, but she is touted now as the economic policy advisor candidate, and she is Corbynite. Right? Labour. Now, so he started digging on her because they've never even heard of this person. Her father, Henry Boehm Fanebula, has links to the Liberian politics under Samuel Doe regime. Now, that was a military-based coup where they just executed people. So I then ended up on a Liberia tangent because I was like, I didn't know anything about this coup. Now it does seem like, so basically like a little bit of a backstory with Liberia. Shit was corrupt. So the American slaves that were freed, they went to Liberia, and they set up, it's really kind of weird, in the 1800s. They went to Liberia and they became like the elite ruling class over the Liberian indigenous people. So, black people toiting over, so they literally took, so they were slaves and they literally replicated that exact same thing with them on top. And so the people who'd been in charge had always been from it was really strange. They started doing inbreeding and creating the elite bloodline families, and they were wearing even in the 50s and 60s they were wearing top hats and elite high society clothing from the Victorian era. It was really weird when I was watching this documentary. This Liberian guy was doing it. It was cool. So they were so the norm, the indigenous population were really kind of suppressed and treated like shit, and they weren't allowed to, they didn't have the same freedoms, they didn't have the same rights, they didn't have access to the jobs or anything like that. So then there was started to kind of some of the kind of politicians started to be a little bit more progressive, with like opening up jobs for indigenous population and having and they called it like the open door policy, where both indigenous and Amero-Liberians, so American Liberians, would go to school together. So they'd started to kind of integrate, maybe like 50s and 60s, 60s and late 60s. But then that president died, and the guy who took over went like kind of like crazy liberal, and tried to like upset the balance loads, but only on paper. It was even more fucking elite, but just so if you think about what we're going through now, where they're like pushing like trans agenda and treating everybody else like shit, but it's only the trans who like get to the top of the tree. However, they won't actually give these people like real place in society. They get like token roles, but they're not really involved, right? Kind of that goes on. And then this guy called Samuel Doe is so basically everybody gets really pissed off, and there was loads of protest, and people in the military joined, like they downed tools and joined the protesters, and then they ended up staging a coup. And Samuel Doe was a 28-year-old individual with like low intelligence, like didn't even go through school, like kind of joined the army. And this guy was he was like a master sergeant, and then he was just given control of the country. They executed people. He had no idea how to run a country. Like none of them had any idea how to run a country. And Fanny Boulah's dad was part of the government before this and after this. He served as Minister of Education and of Foreign Affairs. So he was involved in the Liberian politics both before and after the coup. Then he tried to be the president in 2017 and he was rejected. So it's his daughter who is an MP in the UK. So she is an MP in the UK because she has British citizenship, because Fanny Boulah Senior was convicted of treason based on his alleged writings of letters to other countries, ambassadors asking for help in conspiracy to overthrow the Liberian government. So that's when Fanny Boulah Senior was in the government, and he was writing to outside agencies to try and get the government overthrown. And then he was convicted of treason, but obviously then he came back, right? But during exile, that's when she was born in Liberia, but they fled in 1986 during the Civil War, right? So he was involved in the coup. He was involved in destabilizing his country, fled to the UK, then he went back and tried to be president. And she stayed, and she got to go to a 40,000 a year private school in the United Kingdom. Bearing in mind, like, they're all fucking skint over there. They got no money. And then he's trying to fucking be prime minister over there while she's trying to fucking control. And the really shit, like, what happened in Liberia is they have like major links with China. That's what happened. So because Doe had like no idea how to run the country, China fucking swooped in. Like Belt and Road. They sold off. They've got poverty. Like during Doe's coup, obviously like extreme violence. They had chronic poverty, high child or maternal mortality, resource curse. So they had civil wars. China's now owns lots of their iron. Like, it's owned by China. Iron ore, rubber materials. Like, they just have, Belt and Roaded. And she loves all that. That's what she's involved. Like, she loves it because she's part of the elite, right? So that's what. That's why Champagne socialists love communism because they get richer, they get more powerful, and they become more authoritative. They can do whatever the fuck they want, right? And nobody cares because everybody else is irrelevant. Fucking hell. So, oh yeah. That was me like looking into her more and more and more. Oh, and then okay, so who else have we got supposedly in the fray? So Louise Hay, the former transport secretary. Rayner, we spoke about her so much, I just don't care. Darren Jones, potential chancellor. He is a moderate, supposedly business background, Wes Streeting, who was a Bellend, Ed Miliband, Bellend, Richard Hughes and Jim O'Neill, technocratic. Then we have. Right, that's kind of all the stuff, and we will go live to Grok. Oh, that was me trying to deep dive into Reese Valley. Where's the? Oh yeah, I did. I went on like so many different tangents. Like it's just like I saw like this Martin Nowak. I was back into Gmail world, which is where you can kind of like go through Jeffrey Epstein's emails. And I typed in Manchester because and sometimes I think they were definitely talking about Manchester because they were talking about like going from Manchester to Paris in a day. And it's like 11 and then back, and it's like 11 hours from the USA, Manchester to Paris. So and then I found this Martin Nowak guy was talking about meeting in Manchester. I was like, shit, is that the like Henry? Like I was just like, what the fuck? But not. It's like he at that point he was talking about Manchester in New Hampshire. And Martin A. Nowak is from Harvard, and there's like no links. So just and then I just asked Grok to fucking hunt. And where's the? I normally have a thing that says at the side where the bits are. Right. So, okay. So this is where we got. So I did have to. Okay. So I did have to. What was I? I forgot what I was saying. So I did have to change my initial. So my initial hypothesis was just like, is Burnham a Chinese asset? I think he's just a fucking dumb puppet. Like, I don't think he is a. I don't think he's a conductor of anything. I think he's a useless idiot. But does it mean he isn't an asset? No, but I don't think he's the one we need to worry about at all. I think the people around him are the people who we need to be concerned with. But so I didn't know that until I was digging, just because it was based on the kind of throwaway comment of like, oh my God, he's a Chinese asset, right? But we already had fucking Chinese asset in Starmer, right? We already had it in George Osborne and David Cameron. Like, so we just didn't know. Until you start looking back and be like, well, this is all fucking obvious, really. So then I had to change my hypothesis because actually I then had to kind of say, well, do you know what? I'm changing my main hypothesis that he's just been given the mantle and he's still being like puppeted. But obviously it's something we need to kind of worry about. So step one. So now we've just I've literally just like I put it in, ran step one just as I like went live. So don't know what's going on. So offhand leakage from ex-US Navy intelligence officer, contextual, alleges Andy Burnham is a Chinese asset, possible compromise vectors, so family, transport contracts or political positioning via long-term China economic engagement. Assets evidence for formal reporting to UK authorities. Hypothesis generation later. Here we define scope rigorously. So public narrative. Burnham is pragmatic king of the North, working class roots. And he got king of the North because of all the China stuff he did. Working class roots, devolution champion, northern growth deliverer, China ties framed as standard FDI and post-industrial revival. Bias check. Oh, that's me. So reframings, asset versus useful idiot, active control, recruitment payments versus policy alignment via economic leverage, regional versus national, Manchester as testbed for Belt and Road style influence, economic desperation, post-2008, austerity Brexit, China capital fills gaps, creating dependency, elite networks, WEF, Mandelson, Blair, Epstein overlaps as broader capture ecosystems, delivery gap, growth, rhetoric versus luxury housing, affordable shortfalls, taxpayer risks, qui bono, reporting threshold, atomic evidence, unreported contracts, financial flows, policy shift favouring CCP versus public diplomacy. And I absolutely could do FOIs, but people who've been trying to do FOIs into Manchester for like years have not even had anything back, right? And they've been reported to the authority, you know, the whoever it is you go to if they don't respond, but still just nothing. So ready for phase 2, please. Thanks. Okay, so we're auditing foundational assumptions rigorously, listing them explicitly, testing for validity and generating alternatives, disconfirmation paths. This prevents anchoring in the initial hypothesis. So I believe the leak was credible, genuine. I do, based on the way it kind of came out and the fact and more so the emotion of the way that it was the person was because the person was being very spiteful, angry based emotions where you struggle regardless of how well trained you think you are in being subversive. Your brain doesn't work properly when you are angry and emotional, and it doesn't matter who you are, is your capacity to think long term, plan, and all of that shuts down, and you it's much harder to lie, right? Really difficult to lie when you're under stress. So based on the emotion they were expressing at the time, and having watched this individual like for a long time, it was there was no kind of like, it was a truism. So it was true based on the intelligence and understanding that she has about the concept. And about anyway, so could be disinformation. We always assume everything's disinformation until proven otherwise. Personal grudge, exaggeration. So compromise vectors exist. So Dutch marketing exec with the declared EV contacts, like no Chinese family links, but the EV supply chains is China dominant, right? MCF, so that's Manchester China Forum, scaling 6 billion investments under his mayoralship, set up obviously under Osborne, and Osborne just kind of handed the key. Manchester is new capital. That's what I would say. I said, oh, I think they set Manchester up. And obviously, do you remember Osborne kept saying Northern Powerhouse, Northern Powerhouse, Northern Powerhouse? And what he was doing on the back end was just fucking selling it to China. We have She Visit, 28 Mission, FDI Housing, Burnham Continuity, economic data mix. So growth, like money laundering makes it look good, but reality on the ground is it's not that good. Elite networks, WEF, Mandelson, Epstein, Blair indicate puppetry, 100%. He's a WEF, young global leader, obviously linked into Bloomberg's mayoring as well. So he's not like, he's being handled by whoever's handling him. He's not he's not an asset in charge. But obviously purely compromised. Okay. Get ready for next step, please. But all of the state's media is propping him up as a good person, except the Times. Like they're all coming out. Oh, he's amazing. You know, Burnham, this is what he's going to do. He's got a 10-year plan for the UK. Get fucked thinking you are going to be in charge for 10 years. No way. Okay, so step 3, evidence is disaggregated into atomic, independently testable units. Sources assessed for reliability. No classified access, which makes it difficult because the security services aren't doing their fucking jobs. Maybe that's what we need to do. We need to have people who are going to be MPs need to be vetted because they're not at the moment. Like at all. Like in order for you to kind of stand, you just need somebody in your constituency to back you. You need 500 quid and you need that's it. Which is why we had the jihadi stand, right? Born 1970, working class Cambridge Labour career, wife Dutch-born marketing exec, declared conflicts, no share, blah, blah, blah. China engagement, we've got the Tinjan mission, there's 6 billion investments, MC funding was, we got Deloitte, BT, Peel, BCEG sponsorships, housing loans, luxury towers, minimal affordability. Also, Robert De Niro, who's just is building a 74-floor skyscraper in Manchester, which makes me more think the elites are kind of planning on making Manchester their new kind of UK home. And obviously Burnham's heavily involved in Mandelson. Okay. Which is, you know, Epstein, which is just like, I just, you know, when you just like, it's so insane that Starmer started taking heat for Mandelson. So then they brought in another Mandelson person. Like, I don't, doesn't make any sense at all whatsoever. There is that guy. There's the one guy who is an ex-soldier. I don't agree with his policies because he's a Labour person. But he said he hasn't ruled out standing in the contest, right? And so there's a bit of turmoil. Not everybody's on Team Burnham. Oh, can't spell. Oh, it's going to run the Matrix wrong. I don't care enough. Sorry. There's not even okay, well, okay, it's not on a table. No. Oh, and wait, stop. And you are supposed to be doing the evidence compiled against each of the hypotheses, not like, what the hell was that bullshit? Do that shit again. I've not had it like have that. Oh, it's because I've done lots of conversations, so it's probably haven't heard of it. Like it used to be, like Grok would like talk to like multiple Groks. And you'd see like agent like arguing with each other. I loved that. I probably broke it. So what hypotheses have we made up anyway? Active Chinese asset, recruited, controlled, and witting. Number 2, unwitting useful vector, compromised via leverage, family business policy aligned without full awareness, pragmatic politician, I don't think he's one of them, standard economic diplomacy, no foreign control. Number 3, elite network opportunist, WEF, Blair, Mandelson, China as a funding source. 5, regional growth deliverer, genuine northern revival. China is incidental. Puppet frontman, Osborne at least set up for sub-national influence. Like, that's what I think most. But I think that's kind of like the same as this one. Disinfo target, rumor to distract from other scandals. There we go. I don't know why to put zeros in there. Pragmatic. Oh. Reds. Puppet. I don't think. Oh, you haven't taken into account. Like, I must fucking drop these links again. This is annoying. Oh, I can't see what he's doing. Okay, so strongest is H2 and H6. Vector frontman on a long game setup and gaps. Okay. Oh, my sore. See, look, as soon as I put the Osborne stuff in, he's not that fucking pragmatic. Like, that's the point. Okay, ready for the next step. Thanks. Now we're going to play devil's advocate and assume he is just a real pragmatical and he's a good politician. Okay, so. Oopsie. So, oh, why have you done it so short? Please, can you do... I can't see you're working out. Oh, come on, Grok. Right, this is better. Okay, so challenging leading hypothesis. So testing for robustness, applying concepts and surface biases. Okay, so it's devil's advocate, aggressive disconfirmation of hypothesis 2, 6, and 1. So 2 and 6 challenge, so unwitting vector or puppet frontman. So we've got cumulative evidence, looks orchestrated. Every regional mayor in post-austerity pursued FDI. China was golden era national policy. Yeah, but that's because Osborne was the fucking chancellor. Manchester specific pre-existing assets. Delivery gaps are UK-wide planning failures. Not unique conspiracy. No evidence of Burnham receiving personal directives or deviating from public growth mandate. Devil's advocate conclusion. Most parsimonious is competent execution of devolution brief. Challenge active asset, zero corroboration, no handlers, payments, dead letter boxes in public, leak, single source, public record consistent with mayor role, disconfirmation, absence of direct evidence. Yeah, I couldn't find any direct evidence. I mean, it looks very fucking dodgy with all of the, but that's the point, isn't it? But I think with Burnham, like I think he's, it's people around him. So, okay, ready for step 3. for step 6 even. And then I'm going to have to remind him to give me fucking percentages. Oh, my head. Okay, it's plausible but unproven on public evidence. My primary plausible but unproven is good. Strong circumstantial pattern. No direct control mechanism surface, so there's a diagnostic gap. Most likely unwitting opportunistic vector or puppet front man. Oh, okay, so 40 to 50%. 30 to 40% pragmatic politician. Like, no, because he's a fucking idiot, though. Like, he's got no capacity to function. Continue. Okay, watch points. So basically, we have to wait and see, right? What's he going to do? We're already seeing that they're already bypassing UK Belton Road. Yeah, 45%. It's all circumstantial. Okay. But try to be PM, like try to be leader of the Labour Party 2 times before. He had a year of his before coming back. And didn't tell anyone what his plans were until was elected as MP, like kept changing his mind. So now elected with his bag handlers, he has a 10-year plan. Yeah. Okay. So that's the problem, is Grok doesn't just remember stuff, which is really annoying. Ready for full report. And please give percentages of probability per hypothesis. And when giving watch points, share percentage flips per hypothesis. Like, what should we be looking out for? Oh, I want ice cream. I might get some ice cream after this. Okay, here we go. So, unwitting useful. Okay, 55%. Yeah, he's a useful idiot. And 45% front man of a puppet. So that's quite high. Pragmatic, 35%. Elite opportunist, 30. Active asset, right? Yeah. So we haven't got. I mean, we don't have genuine proof, right? But outside of that, we have got a lot of evidence to showcase the way that he's behaving. So he could be he could be an active asset. And then H2 and 6 are, it's not that they kind of become irrelevant. It just they would swap and add in, right? It's not like it's like if they go away, he's all of a sudden a good politician. If he's an active asset, 2 and 6 would downgrade, and H1 upgrades. But at the moment, because we don't have the actual proof, which is, we don't have access to that, like we're just going off like newspaper articles, and we all know that they're fucking bought and paid for. It's still like the top 2 are he's controlled. So 50 to 60% and significant influence vector. So is Andy Burnham a Chinese asset, and does evidence support authority reporting? That's what we went for. So leading evidence is the Osborne setup and Birmingham execution, Y5V ties, WEF, U-terms, no early plans, handlers, 10 years plan post-election, right? He just didn't. And nobody wanted him. And he was useless. And all of the things that he's done in Manchester were laid out beforehand, right? So when I was looking last week into the, even the 6 billion, that was all set up before. Like all of that was in play, and it just kind of the contracts were signed 2018 when he was in power. Like he didn't really have much to do with it. It was all beforehand. So he just became, he was put in place, in my absolute opinion, he was put in place specifically for that role as a PM in waiting by the whichever circles own him, right? Because there's multiple factions. So evidence coheres around deliberate positioning of Manchester as China-linked new capital. Oh, there we go. With Burnham as a visible front, long ambition, opacity handlers, 10-year plan, post-election strengthens vector interpretation over organic rise. China financing creates dependency. Elite networks provide the ecosystem. Direct asset control, unproven but not disproven. So UK politics potential, subnational influence bypasses national security. Labour shift risks radical economics. Famu Bola or whatever her name is. Housing, EV policies may prioritize investors over residents. Fits broader elite China engagement patterns. WEF and Belt and Road Initiative style. So watch points with percentage policy flips. So policy shifts favouring China. So he said in his little speech that he was going to go back to the manifesto. He was going to start delivering on Labour's promise. Let's see if he does. So that will, if the policy shifts in favouring China, that increases hypothesis 1 and hypothesis 2, 15 to 20%. So that is known asset and unwitting asset. Just get like a huge jump. Pragmatic politician like shrinks to almost 0. Unreported contracts financial flow. So if we find stuff out, 25% to witting and unwitting. I say witting and unwitting. Witting and puppet, right? In the driving seat or puppet. Unreported. So U-turns or vagueness on key issues. So China and housing. 10% to number 6, which was puppet frontman. Rapid elite appointments and handlers influence, 15% to 4 and 6. So 6 we just found out was puppet. 4 is elite opportunist. Clean audits, FOI transparency, minus 20 to 30 across anything that's influence, which is fair enough. 10-year plan details if it's China heavy versus domestic focus. If it's heavy with China. So bearing in mind, he's talking domestic, but we have to see where the contracts are going. Where's the money going? What's the actual, and not just the money, because we went into that Whitaker last week, and he's like, his wealth is increased and he's obviously English, but he was subcontracting out to China, and his court case is still ongoing. So lessons, timing and opacity are powerful diagnostics. Framework builds resilience against narrative capture. So, next steps, recommendations, FOI campaign on Manchester loans, monitor the 10-year plan and speech, authority flagging, safe watch points trigger. So if anybody's in Manchester, like, you need to go on the FOIs. I'm dealing with Telford. But there you go. So I've done some digging for you. So thank you. Like, I think they kind of like mute out the madness bit was just going to be like, make sure you get out, like turn tech off, get into nature. Like, nature tries to kill me in the summer though, so that's quite depressing. But get out into nature, like it literally being outside in the outside air with obviously not in like smog fuel cities. But being, if you are in a city and you've got like a local wood, like go to the local woods, go for a walk, and you only need to go for 10 minutes to kind of like regulate your system. Don't take your, necessarily take your phone with, do take your phone with you for safety, but don't be on your phone, like just spotting like how many birds do you see, what kind of birds do you see, just lose yourself in the moment of walking and being outside and being attached to our beautiful nation. And even if you're watching from outside the UK, do the same thing for your own country, right? Go somewhere which makes you remember how beautiful your nation is, which makes you feel like everything you're doing is worth it. Not only will it downshift your nervous system and help you regulate yourself better and help you stay in your higher order executive function, so stay inside your frontal lobe when it's turned on because you're feeling good, but also will kind of like refuel you with regards to fighting, and enable you to just remember, like, why am I doing this? Why I'm not a coward. I'm not going to be escaping to a country where the person in charge is only going to be there for 2 years, right? And they've got like fucking JD Vance into, like, it's just anyway. But take the time to just feel good. Yeah, so even with Burnham, I get, so he's just, if you watch him, right? So you only had to watch 2 minutes of his fucking silly speech today, which was, you can tell was written for him, right? Because he spent so much time, he had his glasses on and he was reading and he was reading and he was reading, right? Anybody who has been integral and involved in the speech writing process, who knows what they're talking about, who's got the plan, got the ideas, they don't need to read off it. Right. And you can take, so just take like the beginning of this show, right? Before I went to, before we did the grok stuff, right at the end, I was like, I haven't done this yet. Like I would say the end stuff, I was reading through grok, right? The beginning stuff, I was reading something and I was like, oh, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, because I did the digging, right? I was invested in it. If somebody asks me stuff about mental health, like I don't need to read it. So I might need to, if there's new research, I'll go and look at the new research and then I'll be able to tell you about it, right? Because it's something I know, something I'm passionate about. If he has been in charge of Manchester, or he has been in charge of Manchester for almost 10 years, and he wants to do the same thing to the country, right? So create the same model, roll out the same model. You shouldn't need a written speech to tell you how to do that, if you know what you're talking about. So like just by looking at his body language, like, and any time he was being interviewed by anybody pre the election, he didn't know how to handle the he didn't know how to handle the questions, and he just kind of like word saladed shit because he didn't know what he was talking about. But so all we're getting is continuity of cabal, in my opinion. Like, I don't... Yeah, we're getting continuity of cabal. So we're really screwed when reform gets in, because they will get rid of the Human Rights Act, and then we lose judicial review, and then we lose the protections under the Human Rights Act. So at the moment, because Labour can't do that, right? Labour can't get rid of the Human Rights Act. So we have 2 years. We still have 2 years, and so this is why everybody's fucking calling for a general election. And I'm like, fuck's sake! Like, you don't even understand. Don't even understand how dangerous that is, right? It was fine at the beginning, before they'd had the momentum for pushing for. So if you think about where we were in 2020. 2024, right? We'd just beaten down getting rid of the Human Rights Act for the 3rd time in the row that Rishi Sunak didn't even bother bringing it up. But he didn't even bother bringing it up because we'd just beaten the Conservatives 3 times by forcing them to, and it wasn't small amounts of numbers, right? So just for anybody who kind of like wasn't involved in kind of like stopping that shit, it wasn't just the lefty lunatics. It wasn't just like that was like people from all walks of life. There was like tens of thousands of people every single time. Like there was I think it was 63,000 for the COVID one. I think there was over 30,000 for the first. So so as soon as Reform get in, like that's gone. It's the first thing that's gone. And Conservatives if they get in, and Restore if they get in. But Labour can't get rid of it. So had we managed to kind of bypass Labour and maybe get Reform in 2024, they wouldn't have been able to get rid of the Human Rights Act. They wouldn't have been able to kind of like, they would have still we would have still had to go through the motions that we've been through in the last 2 years to make the case, right? Because we'd already just said no so quickly. Whereas where we are now is Labour can make the case and not do it, so that by the time Reform gets in, people are screaming for it. And people just haven't bothered reading Restore's thing about digital ID. Like which just to remind everyone, came out like 24 hours after like the 3 million strong petition. So but yeah, so he's just a different Starmer. It's the same as like George Osborne wasn't in charge of all of his faculties. Like they're not, they're just that they're all, it's the people around him that why we probably need to do more digging on, because they're also not the Prime Minister. So if you think about how effective it was at pulling down, like Mandelson got removed. I mean, and then, Starmer became rudderless, right? So it'll be the around him digging, because going after him and Raj, I can't remember his full name. I can't remember the second name. The guy who's been going after him about Oldham is like been going like nonstop. And the lady who was, raped in the Greater Manchester fucking police station, going head on doesn't seem to be beneficial, but taking out, like, so if you think about it like on a chessboard, you don't make a beeline for the king. You kind of take the pawns, you take the knights out, you take they will be easier to publicly remove, and like would be my 10 cents, I guess. Because Burnham's irrelevant anyway, but he's just the puppet that they've chosen. It's like I cannot see, and it's maybe the evidence is all hidden, right? But based on any time I've seen him, like live, I say live, but like on the telly, like he just has got less charisma than Starmer, and that's saying something. Like watch that like his 10-year plan speech. Like just watch it. There's not like he's no fucking, like, can't even act, right? At least give us a good fucking actor. Like give us a good one. Give us one who can. Fucking hell, we had like short stuff Sunak. Then we've got fucking Starmer wet fucking lettuce. And now we've got Burnham fucking it's just ludicrous. I mean, no wonder they fucking laugh at us. Like, no wonder they laugh at us. Like, genuinely. And how anybody like fucking sycophanted, like we need to like have our photos taken with Burnham like as MPs, right? So I got my photo taken with like I was starstruck as you know, with Boris and William Hague and like all of them, like, oh my god, like these are really like these are famous people. And then I was like around them like for a little bit and I was like, these are fucking creepy ass unintelligent people who've got no idea. Like I'm coming at it from a position of authority on being around some of the most well-known, supposedly most intelligent, heavy hitters, individuals in politics who are all puppets as well, right? So there is no reason why Andy Burnham would be different, because you don't get put in a position of power unless you're controlled. They all had bag handlers, people around them, you know, SPAD, special advisors. Like they do not know. They do like they don't even know how to wipe their own asses. Like that's probably the best way to explain it. They literally cannot function. Now, that's not all of them, but that's just the ones who hold the power. The ones who can't be controlled don't get put in positions of power. So they sometimes make mistakes. So they made a mistake with Anna Soubry. They made a mistake with Lucy Allen, but I mean she was neurotic, so and like certifiable. So they make mistakes, so then they get rid of them. Or they silence them, or they put them in a position where they are just fucking overworked and they can't do anything. And then they psyop they psyop inside the inside Westminster to get rid of them. So Lucy was like had the whip removed. She wasn't ever allowed to speak after she kept going on and on and on about the rape gangs that they were trying to shut up, right? She kept going on and so they like removed the whip. And Anna Soubry, she was she was doing Home Office stuff, and she was like noticed lots of inconsistencies. She started asking what the fuck's going on, and she was told she was not allowed to sit on the front. She had to sit right at the back, which is, and then they psyop them by going, oh well, we'll do this new party which is all about, you know, cross party, and it's all about the people, and then they, you know, put Chuka in front of it, and he like was the sacrificial lamb because he had shit in his past that they were leaking, because obviously everybody involved in Parliament is controlled in Parliament, and then that party collapsed, and then she didn't get re-elected, bearing in mind she'd been re-elected I think she did quite a lot for Nottingham. They're like going on the ground like in Nottingham for Anna Soubry versus in Telford for Lucy Allen, like the conversations you had was just completely different. Like they actually, like, don't get me wrong, like the Labour Party was just vicious, disgusting and awful, but the actual people like were really grateful for all the stuff that she did for them, and like was highly active. Like she was really active, like out all the time in, so like what you would expect an MP to be, like genuinely gave a shit about where she lived, because she lived there, like actually lived there, didn't just fly, wasn't just flown in. Now don't get me wrong, like I don't agree with everything she says and everything she believes in, because you know we're human, but like if I was to go to bat for any, I would for Anna Zubri, right? Because I saw, like, she was what I believed a politician should be, like an MP should be. And she got ousted, right? So you can tell, like, again, but there's some stuff I'm like, yeah, I don't, that's crazy shit there. But she doesn't know about COVID, and she doesn't know, and she thinks we're all conspiracy theorists, but that's fine, because that's the world she lives in. She was a journalist, right? So she's on the outside. So of course she's going to believe the media. She's not going to believe the media are lying to her, because she was part of the media and she wasn't lying to people. But it's very much like John Kiriakou says, like, there was all this bad shit going on and he didn't know about it because they don't tell the people who are going to be, like, against it, right? Lucy Allen, the only reason I ended up doing a lot of the stuff that I did was because Lucy Allen is a narcissist, and she believed I was a silly little girl who didn't have any idea about the world. And she kept saying, "Oh, how did you know how to do a mail merge?" And I'm like, I've literally just done my master's in psychology and, like, applied psychology. I literally, when you just like, are you being serious? Like, she genuinely thought I was an insolent child who had no idea, like, that. And she was telling the Conservative Party, oh yeah, she's ripe for molding, right? So every time we went anywhere, I would be bag-handled, and I would just be like, yeah, you're just fucking creepy. I'm just gonna go back over here. The only reason why I want the Conservative Party to win is because I want, like, fucking a loan for my business, and I know Labour aren't gonna get it. Legit the only reason. Like, that was it. That was genuinely the only reason why I was trying to get the Conservative Party elected, because I was selfish, because we all are, right? And that's why I kept telling everybody on the door. Like, I was like, oh, you don't have to vote for us. Just vote for whoever's going to help your family the best. That's it. Like, that's what we should do. Unbeknown to me, they were all fucking satanistic, rapist, abusing. Like, that kind of came after. Like, I realized that as I was kind of getting involved, you started to see the dodgy shit. But yeah, he is a puppet. They're all puppets to some degree. But the way that he shows up, and the Labour Party are more controlled than the Conservative Party, because the Conservative Party does tend to have members who aren't, my dad voted Conservative, we vote Conservative, right? So remember, the whole thing I've said before is that once people start earning money, they usually, like, leave the Labour Party and then go to the Conservative Party, because they're like, fuck me, like, they're just taking all my money and giving it to people. I want to keep my money. So once you start earning more money, you usually, like, maybe you've done more education, maybe you've got life has kind of educated you, but you're actually you're no longer the ideologue who has just been brainwashed by a university, right? You've actually lived stuff and you've got experience. So it's harder to have complete puppets. But Theresa Villiers, oh yeah, I told you before, she fucking glitched on a doorstep, right? Just, like, stood there fucking stopped working, right? On the doorstep, and the bag handler had to, like, run up the stairs and, like, fucking turn it back on. Like, and I was watching all this stuff going, what is wrong with all of these people? Like, what, like, did she just have, like, a really late night? Like, maybe she's got it, like, when you're trying to, like, why are all these people just fucking, like, unable to function? I had Michael Gove in my car and took him around loads of places around Birmingham, and he couldn't remember he'd had a conversation with me, right? And I'm like, I've literally been driving you for hours. But that was because actual Michael Gove showed up, and then bag handler came along, and then politician Michael Gove showed up. It's just like, until you meet somebody who has got multiple personalities, you just can't explain it. You can't. Like, it's so because it's not like somebody who you like who's really friendly 1 minute and then they're in a bad mood, like, because you're still the you, right? It's just like there's no recollection between the conversation you were just having and the conversation you're having right now. Like if you everybody needs to do therapy, everybody needs to do psychology just to work with somebody with DID. No, but like it's same as if you got somebody with like who's dissociated states. Okay, so if you watch Andrew Gold's podcast with Paul Gascoigne at Gaza, so I watched that. I finished that earlier on today. So I kind of like do all this while I'm walking the dogs or walking or cleaning and doing all that sort of shit. And he's talking about when he was having a psychosis episode, right? And he, Andrew Gold couldn't get his head round what Gaza was saying. Gaza's like, I literally thought the pillow was a person. I was talking to, and Andrew Gold's like, but you thought the pillow was a person. But he's not seeing the pillow and imagining it as a person. He's having like full-blown auditory and visual hallucinations. Like what Gaza is seeing is not what the rest of us are seeing. Like it's like PTSD on steroids. So if you think about maybe you have had a really bad day, or maybe you've had a really bad conversation and you're replaying the conversation in your mind, right? Or maybe you've had maybe you've got a specific memory about holiday and you can imagine the holiday in your mind, right? Now, what happens when you go into a dissociative state and you're going through a psychotic episode and or PTSD flashback is it's not in your head, is what you are looking at is that an actual event, regardless of what somebody's saying to you, is you are replaying the conversations and the experiences and the sounds and the smell. Like it's like you've just gone into a surround like sound cinema room, which is like 360, and that is what you are immersed in, right? It's not like I'm looking at this glass and I think it's a person. Like this glass is the person. It's not me thinking about it. It just is, right? It actually, in my entire reality, that is the person that I was speaking to at some point about something or other, and it's talking back to me, right? So now when you go through a dissociative state or you have PTSD, is you will remember that experience, right? You might not remember what happened between you and the person on the other side of reality, right? Because you will only remember what's going on inside your mind, right? So I might throw like my kefir jar, right? I might throw the kefir jar because I think it's like an axe and I'm throwing it at, I don't know, I've done like axe throwing. If you've never done that, that's really fun. So maybe my flashback is like I'm axe throwing, and this is kind of random, but maybe I'm throwing this because I think it's an axe and I'm throwing it and I'm hitting the target. But what's actually happening on the outside of reality is I'm throwing it and it's smashing into a wall, right? And so Matt's seeing me throw a jar at a wall, but I'm throwing the axe at the, like, I'm not gonna know Matt's there because Matt wasn't there when I was like axe throwing. I'm not thinking I'm throwing this. I'm not thinking it's an axe. It literally is the axe. So Matt will be like, you did X, Y, Z. And I'll be like, well, no, that's not what was going on. I was like axe throwing. Right. So I won't see what he sees. He won't see what I see. That's disassociation. I will remember all of it from what I experienced. When you are DID, so dissociative identity disorder, is you won't remember any of it because that's locked away. Like MK Ultra DID was created with this sole purpose in mind to create unbreakable spies and unbreakable soldiers. It would not matter what torture, whatever was done to that person, is they could not give the information because they cannot access it. So coming back to the puppet politicians, is they don't actually know. Like, they just, like, so when I was having those, so George Osborne, like, he was in go mode. You saw the video. He was in go mode on the video. 5 minutes before that, he was stood, like, you could do this in front of him. Like, no concept of reality. Like, powered down, turned on. Like, all of a sudden he started talking to everybody, and I was like, this is fucking weird. We've just been stood in this foyer for like 10 minutes, like really awkward, and he literally was just stood there, like, not having a conversation, not talking to anyone, not like at the edge of the wall, not looking at a phone. He was literally just stood in the middle of the foyer, powered down, right? Teresa Villiers was up the steps, knocked on the door, powered down. Like, she was literally stood there with her, like, the door opened, and she was just stood there like this. And the bag handler, like, ran up and was just like, oh, but she'd frozen. And the bag handler literally had to have the conversation. And she was like, she was taken off. She was put in, I can't remember whether they put her in a car or put her in like the minibus, but she was taken off and she was like put to bed. And she was rolled back out the next day. And at this point, Teresa Villiers was in the cabinet. Bojo, obviously he was fucking high as a kite doing cocaine, got out of the car, had no idea what was going on. Bag handler whispered something to him, and he was Bojo that you know. Right? When I'm saying they are literal puppets, like, they have no, like, they are just shells of humans until they are given their code word and they are in their politician programming, and then they are just nothing. But they won't remember the interactions, right? They won't remember if they slip into another personality. They then won't remember that and the conversation they've just had, right? So this is why they are always with their bag handler, which is their handler, right? You don't find them, they don't sneak out and go like drinking or whatever. Like, they just, they can't function in society. Okay, so those are they were the cabinet, like, that's the elite of the MPs. The difference is some of the normal, like, fringe MPs, right? So bearing in mind, and I've said this before, Lucy was never supposed to be elected. She was never supposed to be an MP. She was specifically given Telford. She's old money, right? She was specifically given Telford because Telford was a Labour stronghold, and they did not think she would win. And they would not listen to me saying, why? Like, I literally have 230 volunteers. Like, I've worked my fucking ass off. We're going to win. Like, if somebody tells me to do something, I'm going to do it, right? So they would not believe me. Because it was not, they had 40 seats that they needed to get, but actually they didn't need all of them to win. So Lucy's old money, her family gave fucking loads of money. She was a Wandsworth councillor, and she was like, the family was gonna pull the money. So like, she'd been like passed over, and eventually they gave her Telford, but she wasn't supposed to win. So she wasn't disassociative. She didn't have DID. She had other issues, for sure. But she was like a normal human, if you like. So she would never be cabinet. So all those in the cabinet, like, they're all cherry-picked, hand-picked for their role. And especially the PMs, right? So they fuck up sometimes because they think, they really thought Lucy was controllable. They didn't realize. They should have done a psych eval on her, like 100%. They would have realized she's not controllable at all whatsoever. Like, But so it's not that they don't mess up. She would have to be a willing asset, right? Because she was human. I mean, she's old money, and her sister committed suicide. So, like, they got lots of land. So she probably, the reason why she's probably the way that she is because she probably had the very same bloodline-based upbringing, which is not nice, right? Lots of repressed memories and all of those things. I would hazard a guess from some of the things that the way that she showed up in the world, right? And for the fact that her sister like committed suicide quite young, but you don't take your own life if you've had like a beautiful life. So she was given that seat because she wasn't supposed to win. They thought they could have controlled Annie Soubry because she's a journalist, right? And lots of the journalists are controlled. And I think that she was probably, not supposed to win in her seat either because that's supposed to be a Labour stronghold. So they messed up, but they don't mess up on the front. But also they even have like control again. So I've said before, like the person that Telford wanted the local person who was like had been part of the local Conservative Party for years, had done loads of stuff in the local area, and the Conservative Party would not allow her to be put on the ballot. So the members were not allowed to even vote for her to be the MP. She was flown in. But the actual, it was the most surreal 18 months of my life. And it was only when I started working with people with dissociative identity disorder, with psychosis, and kind of when you're having a conversation with somebody and then you see somebody's face, like the literal facial features change and the voice changes. I literally, the first time I was like, oh shit. And when I was looking into MK Ultra, because of the conversations that I was having with my clients, and I was like, oh, I need to understand this thing. Like, are they just like loonies and telling me all this crazy stuff? Like, because I don't know. When I started looking into it, I was like, holy shit, like this is literally, and I came across the politician persona, right? It's a literal persona. So then I was like, oh, like this explains, because I had no explanation for people just it's so difficult to, and because I was the campaign manager, right? So I had a unique position because my job was not to have conversations with the volunteers, right? My job wasn't to, my job was to make sure that everybody was where they are, that everybody knew what they were doing next. So I got lots of opportunity to just be kind of like watching and being like, what the fuck is going on? This is so weird, right? But then also the opportunity to go to other places and try to be groomed into things and being like, I'm just going to go back to the hotel room right now. But and again, if they'd ever done a psych profile on me, they would never have invited me to do any of the by-elections, because I was an obvious whistleblower. Like I'd already, like in my past, done it, like for other things, right? Like it was just, there was no way I was going to keep my mouth shut when I found out that I was part of, I could have gone to prison for being embroiled in an election scandal, expenses scandal, right? With my name. Like, don't go to prison for anybody. Fuck that shit. I'll tell you everything. Like, I got no loyalty. I'm not like it. I used to meet people who would say things like, cut me open and my veins and my blood runs blue. And I used to be like, what the fuck? Like, vote for the party that's gonna do the best for, because I had You know, I believed that they were genuinely, you know, initially good people, right? But I just like why would anybody say that? Like, why? How could you be so attached to it's just weird, right? But they rely on that. They rely on the mirage of them being these celebrities, right? You know, I was like initially like, oh my god, all these people, but by the like I was within weeks, I was like, fuck's sake. And they all come up to you like, hi, I'm so and so idea, and you're like, yeah, okay. Fucking hell, come on. Like, I don't care. Just give me some leaflets. Let me just go fucking knock on some doors. Like, I don't care. Be like, oh, we're going to this party. Like, come to this party. No, I really don't want to. I don't want to come to the party. I don't care who's going to be there. Oh, but so and so. Like, I just don't give a shit. Like, I'm just want you elected for a loan. That's it. Then I can go back to my life. Enjoy my life. Like, that's it. Like, I don't want to be doing this. Like, this is not a fun thing. Like, this is just the most fucking weird inbred thing in the world, and you're all fucking off your rocker, and now you're in charge of the country, and I just have no hope for the world. And again, the only reason I voted Remain was because I'd seen the British politicians, right? I'd seen what goes on, and I knew there was a uni party. I knew there wasn't a Labour Conservative divide, because I was horrified when Anna was saying, oh yeah, you know, because I'd watched something on the like Anna had been on with somebody from the Labour Party, and they were like proper going at each other on the telly. And she was like, oh my God, we had such a laugh afterwards, because obviously we have to stick to the party line and we don't all believe everything that we're saying. She's like, and we actually, you know, we were in the parliamentary, whatever it's called, the pub bit afterwards, and we were just laughing about some of the stuff that we had to say. And I was sat there thinking, wait a minute, what? Like none of what you're saying is true. And like, and I still say Anna's like the more human version. But she was in a role and she had to say the stuff that she's told to say, whether she believes all of it or not. Otherwise you get the whip removed. So they're not free thinking. They're just it's the biggest farce. Like, genuinely. And it is so. If you haven't been to your local council meetings yet, I urge you to go. Just go and watch the absolute theatre of it all. And then you'll see how pathetic they are, and then it's exactly the same when you get like up the ladder. Like, nothing. It's all pathetic. It's all like, except the only difference is the MPs all get along. The councillors fucking hate each other, and the parish councillors they just like, because they're normal people who believe they're being oppressed by the other side, right? They are ideologically attached to the party. The MPs, they don't give a shit. They're just in it for the money, right? And the fame and the fortune and the backhanders. And then obviously then you get the puppets who are bloodline and raised, who were the ones who are kind of in the actual positions of power. So yeah, but then none of them are bright. They're all dumb because they're all controlled, because they're all in their programming. And if they break down, like Bozo broke down, they get sent to Checkers for 2 weeks, right? When he had COVID, and we sent away, and then he came back as a completely different Boris, like lost loads of weight. His face features were different, and that wasn't like DID different. That was like his like somebody in a mask or a Boris clone that came back after Checkers, because he broke down, because he was starting to be like, let's just open everything up because fuck it, let it run its course, herd immunity, it's fine. No, because that's not what the cabal wanted. So I wonder whether his programming had started to break down. But the Boris we got back was the Boris they needed. Yeah, so it's I am very grateful for the weird and wonderful experiences I've bad. Because it gives me an opportunity, like when I'm literally talking as a, what do they say, subject matter expert. Like I literally witnessed it and help people through it, right? So if you have never read up, if you've never read the Fritz Springmeister stuff, now there is controversy whether he's like made some of it up or not, but he actually worked with Cisco Wheeler on some of it, and Fiona Barnett. Like if you've never kind of really looked into the actual MK Ultra program, like how to, I think it's called like how to program a monarch mind controls, how to program mind control. It's Fritz Springmeister. I think that's pretty much how you say his name. If you've ever had any like trauma, like be careful. But you need to like that stuff will, like anybody who says they're Alice or hooked up to a computer, like they're all programs. Anybody who says that they're the son of God, it's a program. So that's David Icke, the son of God, right? They're all programs. And we're all programmed by the telly and the schools and stuff like that, but it's not the, like, we are not likely to forget what we said an hour ago and completely contradict ourselves, both with pure conviction. Like conviction with what we said then and conviction with what we said now, because we're in a different program. And they have some mad skills, like skills that we all could all have without the trauma and abuse, but we just don't, because we don't get the opportunity to learn how to do stuff like that. But I'm talking about being able to to just kind of read a book and then just like, what's it, like perfect recall, like multiple languages, precognition, like slip into it, right? So without, like, so you don't have to kind of like meditate and spend years. I mean, they will have had to right? Spend years and years being abused, but it's just a frequency programmed into you. So and I don't tell my client, I don't say you have to kind of like abolish all of your personalities. Like if you want to keep them, right? Like, but just don't let them be in control. That's the difference. Because I could go into a library and be a inside voice Katie, or I can go to a club and be like outside voice Katie. As long as like outside voice Katie is not in library, then it's fine, right? So as long as this sharing and no taking over. So it was always about giving the primary personality confidence and control. That's it. Like, and then it's not up to me to decide like you have to have all of your personalities collapsed into one. Like, I don't think I'd want that. Like but you can, they slip into them and use the skills. Like, I don't blame them. So enjoy I was going to go like an hour ago because I was poorly. But I think that's probably this last 40 minutes or so has been useful as well. So go and watch Brittany when she's on that interview, and all of a sudden she's like, ew, because she realizes she's crying, but she doesn't know why she's crying. Right? She had no comprehension of what happened before. Or Bill Clinton when he's having the makeup done, or and definitely go and read the Fritz Springmeister stuff and really understand it, because that's who the politicians are, right? That's who the heads of states are. That's who the royal family are. And somebody asked me the other day, do I think William and Harry? Of course. Right? This is not about being mean. It's not about being a bitch. It's not about throwing, tarnishing everybody with the same brush. Do I think Diana was? Of course. She was bloodline, right? But do I think her programming slipped? 100%, because it does. But she went from the royal family to the Al Fayeds, who were also involved in it all. So she didn't exactly escape, right? She didn't escape and go and find a normal person. But they the only way they can be in control is by being in control. I don't know how many, you know, when you kind of get to a point, you're like, I don't know how else to say this. The only way to be in control is to control it all. Right? They don't leave anything to chance, because they can't. Because when they leave things to chance, they end up with Lucy Allen. They end up fucked, right? So do I think Sean Davis is bloodline? No. Do I think he is a willing asset? Yes. So do I think he's controllable in that way? 100%. Do I think he's compromised? 100%. Will he ever get put in a position where he is like properly in control? No. Because he's not an ultimate soldier, right? He isn't able to cut off that information. Like, so when you see an inquiry and they're saying, didn't know anything about it, and you go, well, what about these text messages? And they go, don't know anything about them. Like, sometimes I'm sad, they go, they probably don't. That was probably like, that was like personality ABC. Like, he's personality Z, right? He's like, he's probably like, and young boys. So this is why eyewitness testimony is kind of like not that useful. So it kind of all came like they did lots of investigation into it. So there was a case of like there was I can't remember, this was 50 the 70s and 80s. There was 15 young boys who were they basically they raided, the police in the UK, they raided this guy's house, and they found like videos and video like all over the, like there's just like reams and reams and reams of videos of young boys being like category A horrifically abused, right? And obviously the police back in those days had to go watch it all. And then they found the victims, and then they were trying to get the victims to corroborate, because, you know, you say, oh, it was a faked video, the same as they're going to say about all the stuff now, it's faked, right? That's why we've been given AI so rapidly, like, was so that they could get ahead of the, oh, it's a deep fake, right? If anybody else didn't realize, like, I said that like years ago as it started rolling out fast. It was obvious this is why we were getting it now. And so fucking quickly, right? If you see Grok from what it was, like images, to what it is now, it is insane. So they were showing the boys these videos and the stills, and loads of them were convinced it wasn't them. They said, that's not me. That isn't me. That never happened to me. Right? That's dissociative identity disorder. And it's not because it wasn't shame. It wasn't them trying to hide things. It's not because they had Stockholm syndrome. They literally had no recollection of those events. That didn't happen to me. Maybe they just look like me. Yeah, it looks like me, but it's not me. Oh, maybe he's just got the same birthmark. That's not me. Like, nothing like that has ever happened to me. Like, ever. Right? That's disassociation. Like, no fucking idea. Until it like slams at like late 30s. Then you get like the flashbacks. Okay, so I really am going now. It's because I need the wee. So have yourselves an amazing rest of your week. I look forward to seeing you next week. Something else we'll talk about. Hopefully not politicians, because I'm bored of them. I know they're important, but just something else, hopefully. We'll see. So thanks very much, and have an amazing week, and I shall see you soon. Lots of love. Bye for now.